sad to report. The Guitar Hero, the original Guitar Hero. This is the guy that made us all play guitar. Like if you're my age, you saw that 1994 Jump video, and you were like, "What the fuck is that?" You were a kid, and and I was just all about guitar after that, and it was because of this guy. And unfortunately, at 65 years old, he has lost his battle with cancer. Now, he's been sick for a while. We had mentioned before, actually, they had been interviewing David Lee Roth. We did a piece on this, that David Lee Roth was kind of concerned about Eddie's health, and we had commented on this, and how they probably weren't going to tour ever again. And yeah, unfortunately, David Lee Roth was unfortunately right about that. Eddie was definitely taking a turn for the worst, and he was reported by his son Wolfgang a few days ago on the 6th, I think, the 6th. Yeah, that he finally he did not make it. So that is very sad, and yeah, that's a major loss. That's this is a guy who, there's a pantheon of great guitarists. Your Jimi Hendrix, your whatever. I mean, most of them are actually still alive, actually. But like think of the ones that are dead. Yeah, I'm thinking most of them are still alive, actually. Now that I think about it. But
all the great guitarists.
Yeah, most of them are still alive. Like the Richard Blackmore, Jimmy Page. Like they're all still, all these guys that are notable. They're all kind of still alive, I think.
So when I'm thinking of that's dead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
he's more of a blues guitarist.
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're Stevie Ray Vaughan. I was never into him, but yeah, he's definitely a notable guitarist.
Eric Clapton's still kicking.
Eric Clapton's still alive. So, yeah, like most of them are, like I think most of them are most of the really notable ones.
Still got Tony.
Yeah, all like the notable ones. I mean, there's a lot of really great ones that have died. That maybe their names aren't as big, but yeah, but the really really major super mainstream ones are all pretty much still alive. So Eddie Van Halen is he's up there. And unfortunately we lost him at only 65. That's so young. And some interesting facts about Eddie. He believed, he used to always see him smoking that cigarette, and he did that all the way up to 2016. He started vaping in like 2016. The guy was just a smoker. You'd always see him. He made that like putting the cigarette at the end of the guitar and the neck cool. He puts it there, and unfortunately he made that shit. He made guitarists smoking look cool, which was not responsible in his, but they didn't know back then. Like they weren't thinking like But anyway, Eddie did not believe he got lung cancer from. Well, he never had lung cancer. That's the thing. He never fucking had lung cancer. He doesn't believe he got cancer. It started with tongue cancer on his tongue. He does not believe it came from the smoking. He used to use metal picks, like they were made of copper, or whatever, and he'd put them in his mouth. Like I like to put picks in my mouth too. And he claims the part of his tongue where he got cancer was where he used to keep the pick all the time. So who knows? Maybe there was some kind of chemical on that or something. Who knows? I mean, he knows. He's the one that did it. And, unfortunately, it spread to his throat and finally to his brain.
Maybe that's also where he put the cigarette.
Yeah, but usually you get lung cancer from somebody. You never know. I don't know about cancer. But interesting fact. That's one interesting fact. Another interesting fact, when they replaced David Lee Roth, I didn't know this. I learned this recently, that both Daryl Hall and Patti Smythe of Scandal were in line before Sammy Hagar, and they had to actually keep that silent because they didn't want Sammy Hagar to know he was like not the first pick. I guess they were interested in him. And think about Sammy Hagar; he's like 10 years older than them. So like they imagine like these young guys, like they're like, oh, we'll get this old guy from like the 70s singing. That was weird, man, because he's like this old man. And Daryl Hall and Patti Smythe are probably like more Van Halen's age at the time. And imagine Daryl Hall singing for. I love Hall and Oates; they're great. Or Patti Smythe. That would have been great. That would have been. I would have loved to see that.
Too intimidated to follow up.
Yeah, I think he
Diamond
was just,
Dave.
Yeah, like he's just, this isn't for me. And Patti Smythe, I don't know why I didn't get Patti Smythe. I mean, that would have been interesting too. It would have been very interesting. So, also, Gene Simmons is the one that discovered Van Halen. As Gene Simmons would probably let you know, he's like, I actually discovered them. It's all me. But he actually did. And he didn't want to sign them though. He didn't think like they were like, he'd always been very standoffish with them. And it was actually a point where Eddie Van Halen, in the early 80s, he was having so much trouble with David Lee Roth, he wanted to stop Van Halen and join Kiss. Imagine, he wanted to replace Ace Frehley when Ace Frehley was being thrown out. And Gene Simmons was he was like, no, you can't. It's like, there's not enough room in you for Van Halen. And he's right. Like, because Van Halen's like, he's a guy that moves forward. He's not a guy that takes orders. He's a leader. And Gene Simmons knows, he's like, listen, there's only 2 leaders in this band, and you can't be one of them. Like, it's not going to work. And he's right. It wouldn't have worked. He's too good for Kiss. Like, Kiss needs a subordinate guitarist that obeys what Gene and Paul say. Like, that's how that business works. That's the way it's gonna work, and that's not gonna work with Eddie, who actually knows how to do stuff. So it's not gonna, they know that. So interesting story. And Eddie was obviously a notorious substance abuser, booze and cigarettes, and he got that from his dad, who was a saxophone. No, he was a clarinet player. He was a woodwind player. He was a somewhat famous woodwind player. And he's asked his dad, how do you remain so calm on stage? He's like, hey, kid. He's like, his father was from Holland. He's probably like, oh, you pull the cigarettes and the booze. And Eddie did that. And he's like, yeah, this works, man. So his dad got him into that. It was his father, how he, became a really bad substance abuser. So, yeah, Eddie Van Halen just never gets old, man. And a lot of people, still get some people that write him off to be like, oh, he didn't do that much. But I used to think that, and I really started listening to Van Halen. I'm like, no, this guy did crazy shit with a guitar. And you could argue that it was Steve Hackett that invented the hammer-on, like that Eddie didn't. And that's arguable. Like Steve Hackett from Genesis, you can argue that. But that's not even where it starts or ends. I mean, Eddie did not only in work of like detuning guitars and doing all kinds of crazy shit. If you listen to Eddie Van Halen, he's like playing in drop C in like the 70s. Like, who the fuck did that back then? He's like playing crazy stuff. Also, and on top of that, he was also like a guitar modder and an amplifier modder. So it wasn't only about the music. He like would take guitars and just build them to his liking. He was one of the. That's why you have all these products now in his legacy. You have these EVH amps and guitars and a whole huge line of products, which I partake in myself because they're great products, that will last forever, with his name on them. EVH, with that EVH logo on it forever. EVH forever, 5150, everyone. So rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. You were the greatest. And also, interesting fact, Mark Stone, I just saw this, I guess he was the original bass player for Van Halen, like obviously that unknown guy before Michael Anthony, just also passed away on September 26th. So he was actually like that other Van Halen guy that no one ever knew about. I just thought that was interesting because Van Halen is one of those bands that have been around since like the early 70s. So that's interesting. So
R.I.P. EVH.
R.I.P. EVH. That does suck. And incidentally, where's my mouse? Did my mouse freeze again? Stand by, everyone. There it is. So incidentally, as a result of it, and this happens usually all the time. Like you get all these people that are like, oh, Van Halen, that's a thing. So his albums sales, the plays, I guess, increased 6,000% on the day of his death. Album songs sold 40,000 copies on October 6th, with 9,000 of those just album sales. So even just the album sales, not even just plays on Spotify or anything, just like actual album sales. Top selling songs, all these obviously famous songs here: Jump, Panama, Eruption, Running with the Devil. I mean, I just, there's way better songs than this, I think. But
normal people like Van Halen.
Yeah. Van Halen is a very normie.
It is not niche.
Hard rock band. Yeah, and that's what made them great. Like, they were just the most normie hard rock band ever, and obviously they were a huge influence on all kinds of metal. Obviously, the Abbott brothers, Dimebag and Vinny, they were kind of like their own Eddie and Alex, like themselves. They were obviously worshippers of Van Halen. So many people are worshippers of Eddie, even though it wasn't metal. It just had an influence. It mostly had an influence on hair metal, you could say, too. It was a huge influence on what hair metal became, which is important.
I read that Dimebag was buried with one of Eddie's original guitars.
Yeah, what happened there is at his funeral, Eddie came to the funeral.
Is that nice?
Yeah, that was really something, and it was called Bumblebee. It was black, and it was had that Eddie Van Halen pattern on it, that pattern that he invented. And he was gonna originally give Dimebag a replica of the guitar, but he gave him he put it in the casket with him, put it in his hands. Yeah, so that's everyone says that obviously as some as crazy as Eddie was, with his drugs and stuff, he was just like a really nice guy. He always had that grin when he played, that grin that he's always smiling, it just looks like he just made it look fun. just made that thing look fun. He's made it fucking look cool. That's another thing. Is all the optics of Eddie Van Halen's. You know, those jumps he would do, those splits, a lot of cocaine, but you know, there's a lot of that back then. It's not his fault. So yeah, that's so yeah, a lot of music sales now. So yeah, that's Eddie. You know, we'll always remember Eddie. You know, Eddie was awesome. So yeah.